Welcome back to Tiny Travelers. If you've ever planned a trip, packed every single item your kids might need, booked the accommodations, packed again because someone unpacked everything, and still somehow felt responsible for keeping everyone fed, happy, and calm, this episode is definitely for you.
Welcome to Tiny Travelers, the family vacation podcast where we make traveling with kids easier, smarter, and more fun. I'm Sarah, a travel-loving mom who knows the joys and chaos of exploring with little ones. Each week, we dive into parent-tested strategies, travel hacks, and honest advice on what really works with kids and what doesn't. So buckle up, grab your travel planner, and let's make your next family adventure unforgettable. Pack light, travel happy.
Today, we're talking about something that's often invisible, felt by so many parents, especially moms when traveling, the mental load. My guest today is someone who knows this topic inside and out. Lily Walla is the founder and CEO of Augie, a platform that helps modern parents discover trusted product recs, shop curated travel essentials, and feel less alone in the chaos of family life. She's also a mom to a toddler, a Brooklyn local, and the creator of virtual events that support thousands of parents on everything from postpartum recovery to traveling with kids. She's here today to talk about what it means to be the default parent on vacation and how we can make family trips feel a little bit more balanced and a little more fun. Lily,
thank you so much for having me, Sarah. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. I can't believe we get to talk about travel 2 times in like 1 month. This is amazing.
The best. And we'll probably get to shit talk our partners a little bit. We love them.
We do love them. But
let's define the default parent a little bit.
Exactly. Okay, let's get started with that. Okay, so thinking about the default parent, maybe that's a new concept to people who haven't heard that term before. So people who are not familiar with that concept, what is the default parent? What's the default role? How would you define it?
I would define the default parent as the parent that carries the majority of the mental load. So if you are the person that has hundreds of what I like to call like the Chrome tabs open in your head and you're falling asleep opening more and more tabs, you are the default parent, the person booking the doctor's appointments, booking the trips, packing the bags, making sure everything is good to go. If that resonates, then congrats.
You're the default. I know. I always tell my husband, I'm like, oh, I'm so worried about, just stuff. And he's like, well, tell me like what kind of stuff? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, like, are you worried about what college the kids get into? And he's like, Sarah, they're 8 and 10. No, I'm not. I'm like, oh, okay. Cause that keeps me up at night sometimes. And he's like, okay, well, that's crazy. So that's just like one of those tabs that's open in my mind, or like the other tab is like, they need new school pants. And then the other tab is like, we're out of milk. And then the next tab is like, the cats need that, it's just.
Oh, 100%. The worst thing I did for myself this year, and I thought it was a benefit that I was giving myself because I was like, oh, I won't have to stress about it till the end of the year, was every parent needs to be the snack parent 1 week. And I was like, oh, I'll just choose May to like throw it, push it down, push the can down the road. And I thought about it literally every week being like, is it my week? And I wish I just signed up to be the first week of September in hindsight.
No, it's true because I signed up to be like snack mom for baseball. And then literally every week I was like, it's my turn. And then I was like, oh no, it's not my turn.
It's literally not.
Yes. No, I totally understand. It's just that constant thinking, constant back of the brain. What's next? What's going to happen? What do I need to think about?
One of the things I have done is spent a lot of time speaking to the default parent in researching this business. And it's not always the woman. However, in most hetero couples in this country, the default parent does tend to be the woman. And what I'm learning about her is she doesn't always feel seen or empowered by her partner at home. But the people that make her feel appreciated and validated are her other mom friends. And so I often think about like, what is it? Like, why do we all get together and like shit talk our partners? And like, what do we get out of that? But I think it's honestly like camaraderie and validation for the work that we're doing that often goes unnoticed by them. And so I'm excited to have this hour too.
Oh, good.
My
I'm
partner
so
is
glad.
wonderful, but we're coming off of a trip and I am tired.
You're ready to spill it. No, I totally know. And, you know, it's funny that you say that because I'm obviously the default parent in my relationship, although my husband does carry quite a bit of a load. But, you know, he's like, you know, I noticed that you and your girlfriends, when you get together, you kind of like maybe shit talk your spouse a little bit or kind of like get a little spicy or something like that. And I never do that with my guy pals. You know, we talk about golf or you know, work or whatever sports is on TV or whatever they're interested in. And I'm like, yeah, because you guys don't have any like mental load to talk about. You don't need to
They're not
unleash
choosing the
anything.
formula to use or what babysitter is coming for that date night or how you even find the babysitter, who do you turn to, what questions do you ask that person when they come to interview to watch your children.
Exactly. You know who he unleashes on? Me. So
You. Yeah.
So that's exactly why we need a community, a village, or just one other mom, or a podcast to listen to.
All of the above, honestly, but you're right. And I think that's what we've done really well at Augie so far is just bring people together. We have a community and we have a marketplace where you can shop recommendations from the community, but we bring people together for camaraderie and commisery.
I
and
love that.
Those two things happen side by side all day long.
You really need those two things, honestly, to keep yourself a little bit sane as a parent.
Yes, I agree.
So when we're talking about, you just came off a trip traveling with your kids and your spouse, what does the default parent traveling specifically look like?
Yeah, I love this question. Let's back up to probably 3 weeks before we leave. And I'm on Amazon or Augie being like, what do I need? And I need to make sure I'm not scrambling the night before. So that's sunscreen, that's the sun shirts, that's, oh, he just got his adenoids and his ear tubes out, so he needs earplugs to go in the ocean. Okay, so he wears glasses. Can he wear goggles? And ordering goggles that work for him, which, by the way, you just wear normal goggles if your kid wears glasses.
Good to know.
Toys for the plane, making sure I'm stacked and ready to go for those moments. I think you told me about the snackle box. I ordered a snackle box. I needed that. What else? And then I told you this when we were chatting earlier, but we were planning for a very big app launch at Augie, so I didn't want to be like packing the night before. So even 2 weeks before, I was packed for that kid. Then he needs eye drops. The eye drops have to be refrigerated and kept cold. So I'm like, okay, I need a container I can put ice in, and I need to mark it as, this is honestly like therapy.
Good. Spill it, girl.
I need to mark that as like, do I need a doctor's note to get through TSA? Anyway, so that's where it started for me. All of the stuff came. Loved getting the packages, as we do, you know, and I'm so...
And your husband's like, do we really need all this stuff?
He's
and
like, do we need to check a bag? I'm like, do we need to check a bag? Do you need to bring your golf clubs? Like, yeah.
I'm glad you can get by with a backpack.
Meanwhile, that's just packing. Now, this trip was with his parents, so my in-laws. I booked everyone's flights. I booked the hotel. I booked the father-in-law and my husband's tea time.
No.
I booked the dinner reservations. It's also my husband's birthday on this trip. So I'm like, are we bringing a card? Do we need stuff for the celebration? Like, that is the mental load. And then I'm trying to sit here and think, like, what did my husband do? And not to say, like, oh, he didn't do anything. But I'm literally, like, thinking, like, what did he do? He brought the suitcases down. Like, we live in a building. And so that's what he did. Like, and I'm not saying like, oh, Samson, you don't do anything, but sitting here and saying this out loud. And even as I talk, I'm like, wait, I also didn't want to bring a car seat. So I found a car service that had a car seat and then coordinated the car seat on the other end. Like, oh my God, I did so much.
You did a lot, Lily. And I don't know if we mentioned this, but you're also 7 months pregnant.
Yes.
So she's 7 months pregnant, also has a toddler, also traveling. It was international, right?
International.
Yeah. So a lot going on.
And I had a blast.
Good. I'm so glad.
Sometimes do you ask yourself, Sarah, like, would you want to not do those things?
No. I know that it is a like total hypocrisy probably, because I'm like, I'm the default parent and I know all the doctors and I go to all the things, but then I wouldn't not want to go to all the doctor's appointments and the eye doctor's appointments and the dental things and the braces and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like you want to be involved, but then how do you take a step back? And
so now this is getting really deep, because are we setting them up for failure, the partners?
You know what? I'd like to think that I am not setting my partner up for failure. I think he's got it made in the shade.
I would like to think that like my husband could have booked those tea times himself or like coordinated something.
I think he probably could have. But he knew Lily was going to do it, so.
This is going to be my tip of the podcast, and it's something that we did a virtual event with this doctor, Dr. Morgan Cutlip, and she's a relationship expert. And she said, don't nag your partner at night. And it's not you versus your partner. It's you and your partner versus the mental load. You are a team. And you need to find a time in the day to communicate that's not when you're both exhausted. And she told me to set up, I think we may have talked about this on our last event, but like a time for a one-on-one during the day with your partner. Treat them like a colleague and go through a list of things. And that's what I did. And we've done now 3. And I think I've been able to unload some things, which has been nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I think sometimes you just have to give some stuff up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do? You can't do everything. And if
I'm sitting, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say, if you did do everything, something would suffer. Likely you.
I was just thinking about 2 more things that happened on that trip, which is my mom's birthday. So we had to send flowers. So I had to coordinate that. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, they delivered the flowers early. So then I felt bad. She didn't have something on her actual birthday. So I'm like Uber Eatsing carrot cake to her office.
Well, you're very nice. That's a very nice thing to do. Very thoughtful.
Okay. Good. Yeah. I'm glad. I think she appreciated it.
Oh, I hope she did. Gosh.
She did.
While you're on vacation, you're carrot caking your mom.
I'm carrot caking. She gets the mental load.
She does. And I'm sure she really appreciated it.
Exactly.
It is hard.
Exactly.
Yes. You kind of mentioned that you had done a lot of research for Augie on the mental load and talked to a number of different parents. Did you find that there's cultural maybe influences or parenting styles or anything maybe generational that really influences who takes on the mental load or how it's split in families? Did you see any kind of trends or any interesting tidbits?
Yes, I would say 100% generational, but that can be either you want to be exactly like that or you're the complete opposite as how you were raised.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of like people not wanting to be like their mother, lots of people wanting to be like their mother. I will say though, millennial fathers, and I think a study just came out about this, are more hands-on than other generations. So let's give them a moment for that. Yeah.
Good job, millennial father.
Yeah. Other themes. Culturally, yeah, I think culturally, we actually did another virtual event with a Denmark parenting expert. And I would say what I've learned there is other cultures are a lot more willing to let their kids do things on their own. Whereas here in this country, we are very much like helicoptering everything that they're doing. It actually really is interesting because I'm learning so much from these virtual events that I get to moderate. And after one of them, my son's 3.5, and she was like, let him try to, go and pay for something on his own, which I never would have even considered doing. And we did it, and he like loved it.
I actually saw that. I mean, TikTok is where I get all my information, but I saw that experiment on TikTok, where it was like letting your kids kind of do things maybe that you didn't think that they were ready to do, or like explore on their own. And one of them was letting them pick something that they think is grown up to do. And this woman's son picked, I think it was like going into Chick-fil-A and ordering his meal on his own and paying on his own. And they talked about it beforehand, and he went and did it. And then it was like, her reaction was, I was so surprised. I couldn't believe he could do it. It was amazing. I was so impressed, and he was so impressed. And it was so great. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. I'm never letting my kid go into a Chick-fil-A by himself until he's 40. But, I think it is true.
Yeah. You actually bring up something really interesting, I think, about vacation life and being at a resort, because like I mentioned, my son's 3.5, like probably older than 3. He's like closer to 4. And so he's at a really delicious age of thinking that he can be independent. And because we were at this hotel and it was like relatively contained, he wanted to go to the kids area and get a boogie board for himself. And it took him 2 tries. Like the first time he came back empty-handed, and I said, "What happened?" And he said, he was standing there and I was watching him the whole time. And it's also, by the way, so cute to watch them just like
interact with the world without you.
Yes. It's
so
wild.
sweet. That's why I love traveling with my kids, because it's not really that fun per se, but you do get to see the world through their eyes, and you're like, oh yeah, that's why I like living, because there's all this kind of great stuff that you forget about being an adult and with all the pressure, and then you see your kids see, whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, it was really adorable. And the second time he came back with the boogie board, he also like met vacation friends.
That's so
really sweet to watch. And I feel like people do say traveling with your kids is hard, but like, have you tried staying home with them?
Have you just been around kids?
Yeah.
Because it's just hard, period.
Yeah. The travel part was like, honestly, he's at a great age because he gets a screen and he is locked in.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So the plane ride for me was actually like a vacation.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Sit back, put your feet up. Well, sort of.
Yeah.
Relax. He's contained. He can't go anywhere.
Nope. He's got his snackle box.
Yep.
Good to go.
You know what I missed asking you at the very top of the show? I got so excited about talking about the mental load. I forgot to ask you, what is your go-to travel snack?
So for this trip, we left very early. So my go-to travel snack was like a full-on breakfast. Ooh. Like I packed a bento box of like egg and cheese little sandwich, some fruit, and I did it the night before. I knew I was gonna have to remember to get the drops out of the freaking fridge, so I knew I wasn't gonna forget the lunchbox.
And refrigerated eye drops.
The refrigerated eye drops, which, by the way, he needs to take every night until he's 12, and they need to come out of the refrigerator 30 minutes before administered. So every day I have a 7 p.m. alarm clock.
Okay, not totally the same, but very similar. My son got a retainer, and every night at 7:30, I had an alarm go off on my phone, and I had to turn the dang retainer with a key, so it like spread
the key.
Yes, if you remember that from your own orthodontist.
Expander.
Yes. Yep.
That haunts me.
Haunting. And then imagine doing it for your own kids. You're like, this is like so traumatizing for me. And then now you have to do it for your own kids. It's
brutal. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
The fact that those things even still exist is offensive.
Kids still need their palates expanded.
They still do.
They still do. Okay, now that we got the snacks out of the way. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk invisible work. The emotional weight of constantly anticipating everyone's needs is a lot. How does that affect your trip or the load holders' enjoyment of their vacation, or maybe even just the memories?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like I was able to enjoy this vacation as much as I possibly could because I did the work to set us up for success. I didn't leave anything behind. The suitcases were organized. I knew where things were when I got there. I unpacked. That I do like to think I unwinded. The thing that haunts me, speaking of haunting, is the sunscreen every second. I'm like, is he wearing enough? Constantly. My husband definitely isn't thinking that. Like, I was like, I need a sun break. And so the sunscreen, it was hard for me to get away from. But overall, I think I handled myself well. I think there are also different types of people. I'm an entrepreneur and a founder, and because of that, I can never fully unplug, especially the week we were supposed to launch something that then turned into this week, which meant that leading up to all throughout my vacation, I'm online. And sometimes that, I'm not resentful of my husband that he works for a company where he gets paid leave, but oftentimes, or just vacation, I'm jealous because when you get leave, vacation time or paternity leave, which he got 6 months of when he was at Uber, when I had another business that I got like 10 days after a C-section, I'm like, damn, that sounds
nice.
Really nice.
You're like, pass that on to me.
This is literally my therapy session.
Well, look, I do have a degree in psychology, so.
Great. You're using it so well.
I know, which is so strange. Who knew hosting a podcast would use my master's degree? Let's see. So, in theory, I think we probably want to share that mental load with our spouse, right? But it's hard. I think it's hard because we've already talked about it kind of in this podcast. Like, one, do we even want to give up some of that stuff? Me as a mom, I just want to be involved and not miss a single thing. So it's hard for me to kind of share that load. But have you seen in like the Augie community and maybe in some of your, research that sharing the workload, have there been any tips, tricks, tools that have actually worked for people in the community to distribute that load amongst their partners?
What I have heard from a lot of, and I'm just going to talk from what I know, which is mostly women, a handwritten or a physical list that their partner can check off is very helpful with things that you want to get done. Also, what I'm learning or what I'm told is that they don't want to fail. So to tell them more specifically and outline it, even if that's not your love language, right? Like you want them to unload the dishwasher without you having to tell them, and have flowers when you get home from a long day, and book the massage, and have a date night planned where the nanny is already scheduled. Like, yeah, okay, that all sounds really wonderful, but tell them what you want from them. And then lastly, ChatGPT has come up all the time, which I find hilarious because, and again, Samson, I love you, but for Mother's Day, he thought he did so well. he went to ChatGPT's like Dolly, whatever the image illustrator version of ChatGPT is, and he uploaded a photo of me and our son Jackson, and he asked it to turn it into like a coloring book page, like one page, and he printed it, and then Jackson colored it.
Okay.
And he was so proud. But then I'm like, if you're using ChatGPT, like, take the time to be like, hey, ChatGPT, what's the ideal Mother's Day for my wife? So I guess
what else can I do with this coloring page?
Exactly. Like,
can I send it with her to the spa or?
And I'm like, and I'm just like, like you're already making the effort. You're already typing it into ChatGPT. She has really good recommendations for you. Just like give it one more prompt and you're golden. So I would say the 3 things that I'm seeing working the most from the community: lists, being very explicit, and using ChatGPT for your partner as a resource. Like they have that literally at their fingertips.
I love ChatGPT, and I am so nice to my AI robot because you never know in a robot takeover who they're going to select to be their queen, and I hope it's me.
Great. I think they'll choose you.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Okay, let's talk more about trip planning since this is a travel podcast. As we already know, the trip starts way before you even step foot on a plane. We kind of talked about your behind the scenes. What is the typical checklist for the default parent going on a trip?
Passports.
Oh, yeah.
I would say are a big one. Making sure nothing is expired. I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but my son's passport accidentally says female. I filled it out incorrectly, but you know when you get them a passport when they're a baby, it's their baby photo for 5 years, so he doesn't look like that anymore. So I just book his ticket under female when we go, and it hasn't been a problem.
What are they gonna say?
That's happening behind the scenes in my mind of like female.
Like
male,
we're gonna get to the airport, they're gonna stop me. We're never gonna be able to get on a plane. We're gonna be blacklisted. We're gonna be on the no-fly list because I put my son's gender as female that one time.
That one time postpartum in that haze.
That's exactly the type of like chaos, like spiral that I have. And my husband has to be like, okay, you're not going to be on the no-fly list, you crazy person. Like,
well, my husband keeps being like, let's fix it. And I'm like, let's.
Okay.
Yeah. Honestly, that's
Do you know the website to go to?
Yeah, passport duty is now officially on him. I'm adding that to our one-on-one. What else goes into a trip beforehand? I mean, just thinking about accommodations in general, I would say is something the default parent has to think about a lot. Like, if you are, and this is where Baby Quip is so amazing, but like if you do if you don't need to travel with a pack and play, or do you need to travel with a pack and play, and if your kid's in a big boy bed but then the hotel has a crib, what do you do? Which happened this time because we had just switched Jackson to a big boy bed, and then we get there and it's a crib,
and they're so unhappy because they're like, I just switched. I'm a big boy.
I was like, sorry, kid. You're sleeping in the crib. Mm-hmm. So that's why I love Baby Quip, because
you never know what you're going to need.
Helps relieve the mental load.
It's true. I was going to say, like, when you are the default parent going on a trip, you kind of have to pre-vacation, like, every single day. You're like, okay, so the day of the trip or the plane ride, we're getting up. We need clothes for that day. We need breakfast for that. We need something to take on the plane. Then we're going to get there. We need to make sure that we're driving. Then we need sleep accommodations. We need to make sure everybody's eating. The next day, do we all have outfits? Do we have swimsuits? Do we have sunscreen? Do we have medication? Do I know where to go in case there's an accident? The next day, do we have enough underwear? Do we have pull-ups? Do we have swim diapers? Like, where are we going to eat? I mean, like, the list goes on.
By the way, I'm ferociously nodding.
Yes, she is.
Yes, because it's all real. And you just reminded me of something, like, the carry-on versus the checked bag. I was like, we're definitely going to check a bag, but what if that bag gets lost? And so then I was like, I should pack a bathing suit and the eye drops.
Then you have to pack like a little pack of things just in case.
Exactly.
Because it's always like you and your husband could probably make it through without anything, but you certainly don't want your kids to be uncomfortable.
No.
You don't want to be scrambling around some unknown destination looking for eye drops that need to be refrigerated.
No, and especially after you told me on our last virtual event that I need to bring something that smells like home. So I was like, I need the crib sheet.
Oh no, I added to the mental load.
No, you didn't. You saved it. And I was like, the stuffy needs to be in the carry-on bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, there's just so much that like goes into it. So, I mean, I hope that we haven't overwhelmed people who maybe haven't traveled with their kids already, because look, I've traveled with my kids, you've traveled with your kid and also pregnant. I've also traveled with a kid and being pregnant. So it can be overwhelming, but like we have been saying this whole time, it's also so worthwhile, so beneficial, etc. So if maybe a parent is feeling like overwhelmed, they're going on a trip and now they're like, oh my gosh, there's a lot. And what's, what do I do? How can we help them shift their mindset, make the most out of it, that sort of stuff?
Great question. I would say, just to echo what you said, I wouldn't change a thing. The trip was so magical. Watching him explore the world was delicious. We had the best time. Swimming with him was so fun. The trip was a trip of a lifetime. What I would say is ask yourself, what do you want to give up? Do you want to give up that mental checklist of X, Y, and Z, or do you want to do everything? And depending on your answer, then try to set yourself up for success in advance. So communicate to your partner what you'd want to offload and what you'd want to take on. And I would do that again in the form of a physical list for your partner so that they can actually check things off when they're done. And then just make sure you have all of this stuff, because I think like millennial moms in particular are stressed about the stuff. Like we want the roller ball with the sunscreen and the sun shirt and the this and all of the things, and make sure you're traveling with the stuff that you want. And if there is stuff that you can rent that can meet you on the other side, that is really helpful. And then we hear about this all the time in the community, which is like what strollers are TSA approved. And you can even bring your Vista and have them check it at the gate if you want. Like, don't drive yourself mad thinking about gate checking the stroller. Get a padded bag if you want and call it a day. And if you are a lugger like I am, just bring the stroller and
whatever's going to make your mind feel so much better at ease, like do it. I mean, who cares? You're going to look like a crazy person lugging all that stuff through the airport, but you already look like a crazy person.
Yeah.
At least I do.
Security is the hardest part. You get through that, you can get through anything.
Exactly. I mean, I've gotten through security with a baby strapped onto me, 2 car seats, and a stroller. So everybody was definitely like, that lady's crazy. But I was also crazy pre-baby. So
same. I saw someone at the airport this past weekend, with one of those foldable wagons, and I thought that was very smart.
That is. You know what? The wagons can be really heavy, so...
It was like one of those laundry cart wagons. It wasn't like
that's even smarter.
Sorry. Wagons, cart.
I know what you're talking about, like that kind of... This is gonna maybe hopefully doesn't sound terrible, but like those older ladies used to put like their groceries in. Mm-hmm.
And she had her 2 car seats in the cart and was pushing that thing.
Now that is a very smart idea. I'm gonna add that. You know what I learned on your podcast? Maybe it was from you. Not your podcast, the event that we did was the Velcro cup holder to the suitcase.
Game changing.
Yes, I wrote that down. I should show you my little note. I was like, Velcro cup holder. That's literally like the best.
Because I'm holding the toddler at the airport, I'm pregnant, I'm pushing the roll in the bag, and the drink is right there. And I don't like the condensation getting all over the stuff in my bag.
Yeah, and then no matter what, you're like sloshing it around, and there's like coffee drips on stuff. You don't want
coffee, it's game changing, like a non-negotiable for. But even a water bottle, it's great.
Totally, absolutely. So I think we've probably alluded to this throughout the podcast, but I think there's probably a lot of pressure on maybe the default parent, but probably all parents to just have that perfect trip, to make sure that everything is so perfect, Pinterest level pictures, no meltdowns, everybody's happy all the time. But we know that that's not really possible. So in your mind, what would you say is like a successful family trip for you?
I think a successful family trip is all in the attitude. And if you go into a trip being like, this has to be perfect or this has to be perfect, like it's never going to live up to your expectations. And so just have a go with the flow attitude. Everything is just a phase, and like your kid is not thinking that this trip isn't magical. So like try to get on their level. And then in terms of like the Instagram worthy pictures, I don't do this every trip because it's obviously a splurge, but I did it on this trip because it was a special trip with my in-laws. And one night I got a family photographer. I didn't worry about taking one picture because I was like, we're going to get minimum 20 amazing shots out of this vacation. And like the rest are going to be crappy little videos that I'm snapping. I don't want to be on my phone all the time on vacation. And so that was very good money spent for me on this trip.
And if there are any spouses that are not the default parent listening right now for ideas, that is one thing that you could book for the default parent. That would be so amazing because oftentimes the default parent doesn't get any pictures of themselves, none with the kids, none in their bikini that they've worked so hard to get into, none with the fancy cocktails or behind the sunset. You know, like that is something that...
That's a really good idea.
Well, you thought of it, not me.
No, but I booked it.
Oh. You really need a wife.
Yeah, I need a wife. Are you single?
I'm not, but hey, we can start something. West Coast, East Coast.
We should actually like start like platonic wives club.
Dude. Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
I know you got Augie going on, but when you're ready to start another business, it'll be like wife swap, but platonic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Before we kind of wrap up, what is one lesson that you've learned about parenting or partnership through travel?
I would say what I mentioned earlier from Dr. Morgan Cutlip, and I want to make sure I'm giving her credit for this, that especially when traveling, especially in the early days of like infancy to toddlerhood, when you are in it, it is you and your partner versus the mental load. It is not you and the mental load against your partner.
Mm-hmm. Yes, agreed.
And this too shall pass.
Everything does. And when you think something is so awful, terrible, never going to change, then it does. And something awful, more terrible or crazier happens. And then something better, amazing, more wonderful happens. So parenthood is this like crazy roller coaster of amazing, awesome, sometimes terrible, mostly amazing, sometimes awful things that happen. And you just have to ride the wave.
Yeah, perspective.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Mm-hmm. Okay, I do have one last question, but I want to know more about Augie because I want to know what sparked the idea of Augie.
The idea for Augie came, and you can nod along if this resonates with you. It certainly did for me. When I was expecting, I received intense spreadsheets from friends full of product recommendations that I needed and everything I needed to pack in my hospital bag. And I was like, holy crap, there is so much wisdom in these spreadsheets and nobody has productized it. And then I went through the postpartum journey, got rocked by postpartum depression, was so not alone, but felt completely alone, and realized other parents were feeling similarly, and that growing up in this modern world that we have, like, we do love an online community where we feel seen and supported. But for me, that wasn't Reddit. It definitely isn't Facebook groups. And I wanted something built just for me as the default parent, and that's what I hope you feel when you come to Augie.
Awesome. Where can everybody who's listening find Augie? Where should they go?
Great question. It's Augie.com, AUGGIE.com, or join Augie on Instagram. Download the app. It's completely free, full of wisdom with topic-related spaces and location groups and due date pods, depending on when you're expecting. And you may have a special gift from Baby Quip in the community, so I would check it out.
I know. And you guys, I follow Augie on Instagram, and there are some really great little stories and posts on there. It's always, you guys always have such great branded things in there.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you for saying that.
Oh, my pleasure. Lily, thank you so much for helping us put language to something that so many parents feel but often don't talk about out loud. To anyone listening, if this episode made you nod your head or say, yes, that's me, I know I did, send it to a fellow default parent who deserves a little support too. And don't forget, you can lighten your travel load with help from Baby Quip. Instead of stuffing your car or suitcase with all the baby gear, just rent what you need when you get there. From cribs to car seats to high chairs and more. Use code TINYTRAVELERS at checkout to save $20 off a $100 rental. Check the show notes to find Lily's platform, Augie, and more mental load support from our community. Until next time, wishing you fewer lists, lighter bags, and happier travels.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tiny Travelers. I hope today's episode gave you the inspiration and practical tips to make your next family adventure easier, stress-free, and more fun. If you loved today's episode, head over to the show notes for promo codes and exclusive resources to help you plan unforgettable trips with your little ones. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Happy travels, and I'll see you next time.